My name is Evelyn Ward, and this is the story of how I learned that the corporate world is often nothing more than a stage, where appearances are the most deceptive kind of lie. For 6 months, I worked as a janitor at SynerTech Industries, one of Boston's top tech firms. But what nobody knew was that I wasn't just some lowly janitor. I was the largest shareholder, working in disguise to uncover why this once thriving company was slowly crumbling. I can still recall the day my grandfather called me into his hospital room. He was gravely ill, and as the founder of SynerTech, he had one final request. "Eve," he rasped, his voice feeble but his gaze sharp, "something's wrong at SynerTech. The company's losing money, good people are leaving, but the books say everything's fine. I need you to figure out what's really going on." I was stunned when he handed me a set of papers showing that he'd secretly transferred 52% of the company's shares to me. It was his strategy all along to keep his majority ownership hidden, letting the current CEO, Garrett Scott, his nephew, and my cousin believe he was in control. "Don't let them know who you are," he warned. "Garrett isn't the same man he used to be." 2 days later, my grandfather passed away, and his funeral was the last time I saw Garrett before I embarked on my undercover mission. Getting hired as a janitor was shockingly simple. With my brown hair dyed a dull shade and my thick glasses, no one recognized me as the granddaughter of SynerTech's founder. The company had become careless with its hiring process, just one of many issues I would soon uncover. For the next 6 months, I worked the night shift, cleaning offices, listening in on conversations, and observing the toxic patterns that had infected the company. Garrett had surrounded himself with sycophants, promoted his college friends to key positions, and was draining the company's funds through excessive executive perks. What was worse, he had fostered a culture of bullying, and talented employees were fleeing in droves. But the most shocking discovery came one night while I was cleaning the CFO's office at 3 a.m. There, hidden in plain sight, were documents revealing a massive accounting fraud. They were covering up financial losses, misappropriating funds, and possibly defrauding investors. I snapped photos of everything, quietly building my case. The company's annual gala was supposed to be my last night working undercover. I had all the evidence I needed, and the board meeting on Monday would change everything. But Garrett, never one to pass up an opportunity for cruelty, decided to make me the evening's entertainment. I was cleaning the main hall during the party when Garrett, 3 glasses of expensive whiskey deep, pulled me into the center of the room. "Hey everyone," he slurred, waving his hand drunkenly, "meet our star janitor. The only thing she's good for is cleaning up after us. Probably can't even read, huh?" Laughter rippled through the room, forced, awkward laughter, the kind that happens when no one dares to challenge the boss. I kept my head down, playing the part I'd been given as Garrett ranted on. "Look at her. No education, no skills, no future. I've been saying we need to outsource our cleaning staff, and this is why. People like her are embarrassing SynerTech." His words grew more venomous, his speech slurring with every syllable. Sarah, the head of HR and my secret ally, stepped in, attempting to defuse the situation. "Garrett, maybe we should." "No," Garrett interrupted, his face flushed with anger. "This is important. We need to set a standard. People like her, what if a client saw her? They'd think we're running a charity." I could have ended it there. I could have pulled out my ID, revealed my true identity, and watched the color drain from his face. But my grandfather had taught me a valuable lesson. Patience is power. So I simply smiled, whispered, "Excuse me," and walked away, the sounds of his cruel laughter echoing in my ears. That night, I made my final preparations. I reviewed the evidence one last time, the fraudulent financial records, the emails documenting bribery schemes, the files detailing workplace harassment, and the blatant misuse of company funds. Everything was meticulously organized for Monday's board meeting. I also made a few phone calls, one to a few board members I trusted, setting up private meetings before the big day. One to the SEC, ensuring they were ready for the fraud revelations, and one to a private security firm because I had a feeling Garrett wouldn't take my expos lying down. As I laid out my power suit for Monday, an elegant Armani number, not the janitor's uniform I'd worn for months, I thought about Garrett's words at the party. No education. I smiled, glancing at my Harvard MBA degree hanging proudly on the wall. No skills. The acquisition papers for my own tech startup lay neatly on my desk. no future. Monday would prove him terribly wrong. Just then, my phone buzzed. 3 messages from Sarah. Garrett is still here. He's getting worse, ranting about you, slurring his words. He's out of control, and no one is stopping him. Monday can't come fast enough. I typed back, make sure everyone's at the 9 a.m. board meeting. They won't want to miss it. After setting my alarm for 6 a.m., I lay in bed, wide awake, my mind racing. 6 months of careful planning would culminate in just a few hours. I thought about all the talented people at SynerTech who deserve better leadership, about my grandfather's legacy that needed protection, and yes, about the look that would spread across Garrett's face when he realized that the janitor was about to bring him down. Monday morning arrived, crisp and cold, as I made my way to SynerTech. I used my janitor's keys one last time to enter the building. The security guard barely nodded as I passed him. He'd seen me early in the mornings before, unaware of the corporate empire that awaited me upstairs. The executive floor was silent and empty, the polished marble floors gleaming under the dim lights. I made my way to the boardroom, my heels clicking loudly in the stillness. As I set up my laptop preparing for the presentation, I couldn't help but smile. By 8:30 a.m., board members began arriving. They hesitated at the door, doing double takes as they saw me sitting at the head of the table in my perfectly tailored suit. I calmly gestured for them to come in. Please take a seat. All will be explained at 9. At 8:45, Sarah from HR arrived, her grin wide as she saw me. Everything's ready, she asked, her excitement barely contained. Everything, I replied with a calm smile. Just make sure Garrett doesn't try to change the meeting room. By 8:55 a.m., the boardroom was filling up. The tension was thick in the air, and everyone could feel something monumental was about to unfold. No one dared ask why I was sitting at the CEO's chair, especially not after seeing several board members discreetly snap pictures of me with their phones, probably texting Garrett. At 9:02, Garrett stormed into the room, his face already flushed with rage. What is this nonsense? He bellowed, striding toward me. Security. Get this cleaning woman out of my boardroom right now. I couldn't help but smile, recalling his cruel words from the party. Good morning, cousin. Please, take a seat. We've got a lot to talk about. The room fell into a stunned silence. Garrett froze mid-step, his anger slowly shifting to confusion. Cousin? What are you? His voice faltered, and then recognition hit him like a freight train. Evelyn? I stood my posture straightening as I turned to face the room full of stunned board members. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Evelyn Ward. My grandfather, Thomas Ward, founded this company, and as of 6 months ago, I own 52% of SynerTech's shares. Before Garrett could lunge for the document I had placed in front of me, 2 security guards, not the regular team, but professionals I had hired for this very moment, stepped in and blocked his path. You're lying, he shouted, his voice wavering. Uncle Thomas would never. Oh, but he did, I said coolly, picking up one of the dossiers. He knew something was terribly wrong with SynerTech, but he couldn't prove it. So he asked me to find out. And find out I did. Now, Garrett, would you like to start with the accounting fraud? Or perhaps we begin with the harassment complaints, the embezzlement, or the insider trading? I've gathered quite the list. For the next 2 hours, I methodically laid out everything I had discovered. The board sat in stunned silence as I presented evidence showing how their CEO had been sabotaging the company from the inside. When I played the audio recordings of Garrett threatening employees who dared question his decisions, several board members gasped in disbelief. This is all lies. Garrett screamed, his voice shaky but filled with desperation. You can't just waltz in here and... I already have. I cut him off, maintaining an air of unshakable calm. The SEC has copies of everything I'm showing you. They're launching an investigation as we speak, and as a majority shareholder, I'm calling for an immediate vote to remove Garrett Scott as CEO. All in favor. Every hand in the room shot up without hesitation. Garrett's face turned a deep shade of purple. You can't do this to me. I'm a Scott. This company is mine. No, Garrett, I replied firmly. This was my grandfather's company. He built it with integrity, innovation, and respect for every employee, from the CEO down to the janitors. You forgot that. And now, you're fired. As security escorted him out of the room, Garrett continued to shout threats and insults, But no one was listening anymore. I turned back to the board and smiled. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a lot of work to do. SynerTech needs a complete restructuring, beginning with a cultural overhaul. The next few months were filled with intense change. We cleaned house at the executive level, promoting talented employees who had been overlooked under Garrett's disastrous leadership. We implemented new anti-harassment policies, enhanced employee benefits, and created anonymous channels for reporting workplace issues. Sarah, who had been my secret ally throughout the whole operation, became our new head of human resources with a clear mandate to transform the company culture. You know, she told me one afternoon, people still talk about that board meeting. It's practically become a legend around here. Under our new leadership, SynerTech's performance skyrocketed. Within a year, our stock price had doubled, employee satisfaction hit record highs, and we were once again winning industry awards for innovation. As for Garrett, last I heard, he was attempting to start his own company. But as the saying goes, investors don't tend to line up when they Google your name and find SEC investigations attached to it. Sometimes karma does all the work for you. 1 year to the day after that fateful board meeting, I walked through the office and overheard one of our janitors teaching a new hire how to properly dispose of electronics waste, one of our latest sustainability initiatives. Management actually listens to our suggestions now, the janitor said, beaming. Ever since Ms. Ward took over, everyone is treated with respect, no matter what their job is. I smiled. That was exactly the kind of company my grandfather had always dreamed of building. Sometimes the best way to lead isn't from behind a polished desk in a corner office, but from the ground up where you can see exactly what needs to change. The following week, we hosted another company party. This time, it was radically different from the one where Garrett had humiliated me. Every employee was invited, from the top executives to the maintenance staff. As I looked around at people from every department mingling, laughing and sharing ideas, I knew we had restored SynerTech to its true purpose. Not just a profitable company, but one where every person's contribution was valued. That night, I framed my old janitor's uniform and placed it on the wall in my office. Beneath it, I attached a small plaque bearing my grandfather's favorite quote, "True character is revealed not in how you treat your equals, but in how you treat those you think are beneath you." Garrett never understood that, but thanks to his arrogance and cruelty, SynerTech was finally back on track. Sometimes the worst teachers provide the best lessons. As I sit in my office today, looking out over the city skyline, just like I used to when I cleaned those windows as a janitor, I know that everything has changed. Our stock price continues to rise every quarter. Employee retention is among the best in the industry, and just last week, we were named one of the best places to work in Boston. But my favorite moment came when we hired a new janitor last month. During the orientation, someone asked why my old janitor's uniform hung framed on the wall in my office. "That's there to remind us," I said with a smile, "that every job has dignity, every employee has value, and you never know. The person cleaning your office might just end up being your boss." The lesson? Never underestimate anyone. You might think someone's just a janitor, but they could be the very one analyzing your every move. Treat people with respect, not because they might be someone important, but because that's simply what decent human beings do. And me? I still sometimes grab a mop and help clean up after office parties. Old habits die hard. And honestly, some of the best company insights still come from those who see everything while others think they're invisible.